Hey everybody, it's meteorologist Jamie Singleton. You are watching Cable 12. You're also watching some live coverage of some showers and some very heavy thunderstorms as they track through the area. Now these are putting down some just torrential downpours, and so over the next couple of hours here we're going to have issues with dealing with some flash flooding if we already don't have them already. In the immediate Franklin County area, for folks watching on Cable 12, there's not much going on here. We've got one cell that I'm watching over Cahays Mountain into the Callaway area, but that's about it. There's some lighter rain that just moved through Rocky Mount. So just watching the northwest part of Franklin County at the moment. But as we go a little bit farther off to the south here, we've got some heavy storms now around Henry County and east of Henry there, going into, let's get a few communities up on the screen. Going into Pittsylvania County, we do have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect that includes Danville. There's a couple of cells, one near north of Caswell, in northern Caswell County, and another one there near Eden, North Carolina. And Eden getting hit really hard with that electrical storm at the moment. There's also another severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 2:30 for southern Stokes County. Movement of these off to the northeast, but the actual areas of rain are hugging the ridges. In other words, the mountains are creating, the warm air slopes up the mountains, picks up the moisture, and converges over the mountaintop because you've got different slopes, across the mountain that converges on the mountain peak. And sometimes those updrafts will sustain themselves, and that's what we're seeing today. And I'm going to show you that in motion here in just a second. But by and large, the most severe activity is now moving into Halifax County, continues to move through Pittsylvania County, and continues out of Henry County as well down into North Carolina, Forsyth, Stokes, Surrey County, Rockingham County, Caswell County. And I've got the scanners on here across on my Chromebook. I've been listening to lots of scanner activity. There's a fair amount of wind damage, some trees and power lines down out across North Carolina. So there's a two-pronged threat, the first of which is the flash flooding, the second of which is the severe weather. So we've got them all covered for you right here. Now you zoom it out here, and I want to give everybody kind of an idea of what's going on. And we'll actually go really wide. Up across northern Virginia, they've had up to 8 inches of rain overnight, and that's because we've got this front that's coming down from the north, and it's hitting all of this warm, juicy air, and it's causing it to rise up and cause the flooding concerns out there. The front is only slowly moving south. In fact, the WPC has it analyzed just as a stationary front at the moment. You can see a cluster of storms right along the front. This extends through Monterey and the Bath County and Highland County here, through Rockbridge County, Stanton, in the Amherst County, Nelson County, and not all of the rain is tremendously heavy, but this is a scenario where, if you were to put out 100 rain gauges, maybe only 5 or 10 would have the extreme rainfall amounts compared to the rest of the area. But where it does rain, and rains very hard, we've got so much moisture stacked up throughout the atmosphere that a storm basically wrings all of that out, and that's when you can get flooding even in a drought, because you're getting 1 to 4 inches of rain per hour, and that's like 2 inches of rain in 30 minutes. That's a crazy amount of rain, but that is what we're seeing in some of these storms. We also got a flash flood warning in effect for Yadkin County, North Carolina. That's in effect until 4:45. Stronger storms near Boonville, East Bend, and between 1 and 2 inches of rain falling there. And again, that didn't take long to pile up. So it doesn't take long, and even when the ground is somewhat unsaturated, it actually gets harder, and it gets drier. So that does cause some of the runoff to really be more intense, because the ground takes a while to even soak anything up. And that's the issue. You're getting more water than you can handle, regardless of what's down in the ground. It's mainly a runoff issue here. That strong storm near Eden there is near Broseville in the southwest Pennsylvania County, and again, just east of Martinsville here around Chatmoss and Axton, to the north of Axton, just passed over Laurel Park. We now have a special weather statement in effect for that cell. Let's see, at 2:16, the storm is over Laurel Park. Axton moving east at only 5 miles per hour. So there's not a lot of motion with these storms. In fact, I'll put them in motion here. And I told you I'd talk about those ridge tops. Well, let's look at that. You've got winds that are coming in very light aloft, and you've also got kind of a light flow with this front coming down out of the south and then out of the northeast. So they're kind of converging. But you can see there's some rising air in through here. There's a bit of a ripple in the upper levels, and there's actually a little twist to this. I just noticed that. That's why we're seeing all that activity. There's a meso-low, a small low near Greensboro, North Carolina. So around that, we're getting the heaviest cluster of thunderstorms. And if you look very carefully, if you look at that, you can actually start to see a little turn, bit of turning there with it. So let me see if my telestrator will work, and I'll show you that. But you can see a lot of the lightning there with those storms, and that also brings up another point. If you don't have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect, if you just have a thunderstorm, you've still got a lot of lightning in there. And so lightning, 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun, it can be a damaging force to deal with. Not just for your safety, but on your appliances and your property as well. This is what I'm talking about here, that counterclockwise flow, and it's working on cable 12 too. Cool. And so that's a meso-low that's kind of tracking off to the east here, and as that continues to do so, it'll wrap in these stronger storms with it. And we go back to the north here, and we're mainly getting, again, it's 2 areas that I'm watching. There's one area right along the front. That's this stuff coming out of the Greenbrier County of West Virginia. But through West Virginia here, we talk about the drought and who hasn't really had the rain and who has. The Greenbrier Valley of West Virginia is one of those areas that floods very easily if the storms develop just in the right spots. So that's a concern. The fact that this front stalled and we've got so much air rising up into it, and it hits this front, we've got cooler air it's coming in from the northeast. I'll put that in blue. And so what ends up happening is all this juicy tropical air hits the front and it lifts everything north. And that's in the green there that I'm showing you. But it's primarily prefrontal stuff, or right along the front. It looks like we can almost track that to Farmville to Lynchburg. Lynchburg still has a southwest wind, but as this front continues to dive down, it'll become more of a northeast wind. And that'll take your storm chances down, but your heavy rain chances up. You'll have some elevated convection, which means that the storm won't be tied to the surface, but it'll be tied aloft, and it means that you'll potentially see some heavier rainfall there too. And let's see. Now I can't move my map, but I was going to show you. There we go. Just a little funny glitch there. I was going to show you what's going on in Roanoke, some of the more populated areas. We've got some general showers and thunderstorms in and around the city here, heading into Salem, maybe hearing a clap or two of thunder. I don't see a lot of lightning at all on our lightning detection, but this may become stronger, within the afternoon. You can see these cells are mainly staying below severe limits, the ones across the Roanoke Valley. Can't guarantee that won't happen though later on today if we get another wave of low pressure there to develop, and there should be about 3 or 4 of these waves. Can't rule out stronger storms developing later on though. Lynchburg just hit or miss right now. If we go in the greater Lynchburg, you can see that we've got some activity around Amherst and the Buckingham counties, and it's raining really hard. We've got a strong storm over Buckingham County right now, but we are seeing primarily under severe limits here, but a lot of lightning in just the past few scans. So watching that as well. And then as you move across south side again, that's the area I'm watching. So let's say if you're in Martinsville right now wondering what is going on, well, look at this. You've got one big storm that just went to your east, but what's concerning is you've got another cell that's popping up on the north side of Martinsville. So this is what I've been talking about with this setup. You get the rising air currents that they favor a location. It could be a mountain slope or just a little change in geography. Just an updraft could be forming out there somewhere. And it tends to get, in these scenarios, they'll get stuck. And the warm air continues to feed up into it. And there's just so much moisture, you don't really need the air to get all that warm. In fact, we're only 81 here at the station. But I haven't looked at the sounding, but I bet you our convective temperature is around that temperature. That's the temperature at which the air will just rise on its own, and you can tell that's what's going on. So just some splash and dash stuff across the NRV from Princeton, West Virginia, down through southwest Virginia, the Mountain Empire there. We do have a stronger storm near Abington, So if you're watching from Saltville, Chilhowie, you got some thunder off to your west and some heavy rainfall, no doubt, on I-81. Will is watching me over in Lynchburg. Hey, buddy. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate that. It means a lot. And we've got more activity down across Floyd County just in the form of lighter showers. This is a pretty strong cell right now down in North Carolina in the Danbury near Pilot Mountain there. There's a chance of some spin with these, but we've got mainly the heaviest rain that we're worried about with some of these. But I'm going to filter some of this out. This is a product that shows me if the radar hits a lot of rain, a lot of water in the air, you'll see this product jump out at you. In other words, the cranberry colors are, can be different types of general rain, but if you look at the phase difference in the horizontal, that means it's hitting a lot of rainfall and a lot of water in the air. It can help us figure out it's not hail on radar, it's rain. And that's what's going on with this cell right here into North Carolina. So let me see what county that's in. It's going into Stokes, and I know Surrey's been getting some activity there as well. Let's see. I'll pop that back up. Go back here. Okay, so that is Surrey and the Stokes, as I thought there. That's some very heavy rainfall there in the green, and more than likely, that's rainfall rates of 2 to 4 inches per hour. And you can see all the lightning that's jumping out from the storm. Gives me another point to talk about is lightning can travel up to 10 to 15 miles away from the storm. So with any thunderstorm, again, I talked a little bit earlier about that lightning threat. So what I want to do too is I tend to get a lot of, and you can see me cycling through all these maps, I tend to stack my streams very heavily, and then I forget about other things I wanted to show you. This is a broader picture of the current weather map, and we're looking at basically the amount of moisture in the air. It's called the mixing ratio, but this is kind of a steady shot of moisture. And you can actually see the front, the back door front is showing up on this map from the SPC. And we'll draw that again for you. It's about right there on the analysis. So you can see how the winds, if you follow these streamlines, are coming in out of the north behind this front. And then ahead of it, of course, you've got the southwesterly flow. So where the wind hits each other, the wind can't go down to the ground, so it rises up. And that's why you see that activity. I'm going to look at a few more parameters here, though, just show you how much moisture we have in the air. If you were to take a column of air above your head and wring out all the moisture, how much would it be? And that is a good way to indicate how much rainfall these storms could produce. Between 1.7 and 2 inches of precipitable water is what we call that value. Those are pretty high values. When you get to an inch, it's impressive, but when you get to close to 2 inches or more, you can get prolific rainfall amounts, and that's what we're seeing out there. There's also not a lot of moisture transport. You see those longer arrows down across Georgia, South Carolina? That's indicating the winds are kind of moving along. Moisture's being advected into the area, but if you go up here across Virginia, we're in kind of a dull spot, so to speak, and there's not a lot of wind at 5,000 feet. There's not a lot of wind even at 10,000 feet. Normally we would see, in the spring and fall, you get a lot of jet stream winds getting down to the mid-levels. In this case, this is a very summery weather pattern, and your jet stream's well off to the north, so you're just dealing with these light 10 mile per hour or less, some cases 5 to 10 miles per hour of wind aloft. So when a storm pops up, it just doesn't move very much. So that's something that I'm watching very carefully. This is the sounding, and without getting too technical, it just shows a lot of moisture. That green line is the dew point, the red line is the temperature. That was this morning at Greensboro. And this dashed line is a parcel of air that's warmer than the temperature. That's why we're seeing the severe weather right now. That's storm energy. But it also shows that we've got a lot of moisture in the air. That value I was telling you there, precipitable water at 1.77. And in Roanoke, or Blacksburg, a very similar sounding. We had a lot of fog this morning. You can see why. The green and the reds there are very close together. But this is what moisture does to your atmosphere. If you've got a lot of moisture, you can still have a temperature at 68 like it was this morning, and you can still have 1,100 so values of CAPE. And that's moderate amounts of CAPE there, even in the coolest part of the day. So as soon as the sun comes out, things go crazy. There's something called a convective temperature, and it's right there, convective temperature 72. So once we got to 72 today, that's when we started moving things up in the atmosphere and getting those storms. And off to the right here, this photograph shows us, if a rising parcel of air were to go up and tap winds, which way would it be moved? And when you see a very kind of narrow, jumbled up mess there close to the cursor, that indicates very little motion with any updraft that we get today. It's the bigger picture. I've got CAPE overlaid. I know I'm getting a little bit technical, but I do want to kind of show you that low that I've been watching. Let's find the color here. It'll stand out. It's right here into Greensboro, it's basically taking I-40 into the Raleigh area. And then you've got areas of sunshine out here and storms developing on their own. But we can analyze also the cold front that shows up very well, because you can see where the clouds are overcast and you can see where they're puffy and kind of bubbling up in between. But notice the flow if you pay very careful attention. Your CAPE values also drop off. This is where more stable air is coming in at the surface, but it's acting also as a plow, and it wedges all that moisture up. And you can see the anvil tops here off of some of these storms across Danville. Very, very impressive. So here's your meso low, and I'll continue working off to the east. So if you're watching around Mecklenburg County and south of, let's say, Halifax, South Boston, going into Emporia today, this is an area I would keep a very close eye on for potential severe weather, maybe even rotation, but certainly also a flash flooding threat. And this area out in eastern North Carolina, Raleigh, Durham, and areas to the east, Emerald Coast, I'd watch out there for some stronger activity as well. We'll clear this off here. This is just a different way of looking at it. Shows the different cloud layers. So the low clouds are in the kind of the teal colors or whatever, and then the mid to upper level clouds are showing up in yellow and green. Green's more of a mid-level, and then the tops of these things you can see right there, those different green values. So it's just kind of neat to look at things in a different way. You can see how the moisture has come into the system aloft. This is the bigger picture, and you can follow all of the moisture coming out of the south here on the jet stream. This is the water vapor. The main jet stream is way off to the west here, way out here. But there's this little remnant upper low, this area of weakness in the atmosphere that's spinning around like that. And it's also been able to bring up moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico. So it's just sitting there, while at the same time, you've got the northern branch of the jet stream that's coming down like that, and that's what's giving us our backdoor cold front. So the battle zone is right in there, and that's why we're in an active pattern here. So that kind of gives you an idea of what's happening there. This is another water vapor image, and you can see the actual spin. You can also see the blossoming of the thunderstorms here as I continue to watch that. So let's look at the rest of the day and see what some of the near-term models say, because we've pretty much got a good handle on what's out there right now. I'm going to update you on the latest forecasting here. And I'm looking at this as you are. I haven't had a lot of time to really get too technical in my forecasting today, other than just knowing it's an active day. Into the rest of the afternoon, this is the HER. We have a big explosion of activity forecast here, and this is only a model, so we'll just see what happens. But this would be around 6 o'clock this evening from Lynchburg and the Appomattox and getting in the Botetourt, Rockbridge counties. This area, I think, will be a focus if these models are correct into the rest of today, as the stuff in Southside also continues to kind of develop down there. But as our front pushes south, that's going to continue to kind of initiate some of this convection and get it going well into the evening hours. This is, again, going all the way out to 6 p.m. We've got some possibly severe storms in there as well. Now, going beyond 6 to 7, the front gets hung up in the NRV across Southside. The rain gets lighter by this time as you go farther north toward I-64, but the closer you are to the Roanoke Valley, still by 8 o'clock, it should be raining pretty hard and at least some scattered heavy storms around. Then you can almost kind of see another spin to this as another wave of energy moves through. Eventually, this gets kicked to the east. So it looks like as we lose some of the daytime heating, that takes a lot of the umph out of this. But there could be some areas of showers and storms even throughout the night tonight, as the model indicates here. As it's at 4 a.m., we start to see more activity developing in the NRV just because the air is that buoyant. And then for the day tomorrow, on Saturday, we're looking at another shot of at least some morning showers around. This is the same situation that I just showed you, but we're looking at a different model, the brand new high-res NAM, and stuff dies down. We have that flare up again. I'm looking at the placement of that. Still shows late this afternoon, maybe the Lynchburg area getting in on the action. Then overnight tonight, second wave kind of moving through. We diminish a lot of this activity after the sun sets, but any little boundary could get some stuff going here. And then for Saturday, wouldn't be surprised. I know it's going to probably clear out for some of you, but if it does, we're still going to be unstable and very humid outside. So on the boundary of the drier air moving in, we could see some heavy storms again near I-77 on Saturday afternoon. Let's go back to the radar and kind of check things out here and see what's going on. We've got 3 flash flood warnings in effect. We've got one for Caswell County now. That is in effect until 5:15. Radar indicated strong thunderstorms over central Caswell County and western Caswell County. Quick, Pelham, and Yanceyville have received 1.5 to 2 inches of rain. Flash flooding is ongoing or expected to begin shortly there. We also have the flash flood warning that remains in effect until 4 for Rockingham County. And the reason that's in effect is it takes a while to run all this stuff off, but you know, as you saw in the loop there, we've also got storms that are developing back across western North Carolina, and they'll develop out of thin air in a situation like this too. So it's not enough just to track it. You've got to just anticipate there's going to be convection developing. That's the motion of the most severe activity. I'm also noticing a trend here. Look at Winston-Salem. Watch that cell die out north of Winston-Salem around Walkertown. That dies out. As that dies out, the one behind it fills back in around Pinnacle and Pilot Mountain. That's a concerning trend in terms of flash flooding. And again, that's what we're talking about. You can see around Eden, the same thing happens here. Look at Eden. Heavy rain dies off, and that outflow sparks up more heavy rain around Martinsville into southern Pennsylvania County. So it's a complicated weather setup. All you need to know is that there's a threat for flash flooding and high winds in any of these storms, and even some wind damage. We've got a tree down into Yadkin County, North Carolina, along Sloan's Mill Road. And the threat's going to continue into the rest of the afternoon, going into the evening hours. The flash flood watch is in effect, I believe, until midnight. We'll have some remaining showers around tonight, but I think the next 8 to 10 hours are going to be the most active. Probably the front half of that will be the most active, actually, and we'll continue to see some activity beyond that. Rainfall rates, I want to show you one other graphic here. These are flood advisories in the light blue areas. You can see that extends down to North Carolina as well. We've got also flood advisories now around Johnson City, Tennessee. If your plans take you that way for the weekend or this evening, or if you're watching out there, be advised of high water there as well. And we've got special weather statements in the tan colors here. But if I go into, let's say, the Martinsville, Danville area, and now in the Franklin County, we've got a cell that's popping up a little bit more. So let's go on 29, Route 29, and see how much. That's incredible. Between 3 to 4.7 inches of rain per hour in that individual cell. Now notice that's not over a big area, so if your plans are taking you out on the road tonight, you're riding around, say up here, and you don't really see anything on the road, everything's fine, everything's dry, you can come across this really fast. And it can be like nothing to the worst flood you've ever seen. That's what gets most people caught up in a bad situation. So that's what we're looking at. Very hyper-local individual areas where it's just pouring down water out of the sky. You've got another cell here at 3.6, 3.8 inches per hour. And now going into Franklin County, and it just updated here, so that activity is now Stoneville and the Eden. Actually, it updated, went back, and I see what it did. 4.8 inches of rain an hour in one spot of Franklin County, and nearly 5 inches of rain per hour into the Salem area now. So you see just how we've been on the air. This has changed a little bit. So it'll be impossible to continuously track all this. Just wanted to give you an idea of what's happening out there in regards to the rainfall that we continue to anticipate into the rest of the day. This is the last 12 hours, and again, they've had up to 8 inches to 10 inches of rain up here into the northern Chesapeake Bay, south of D.C., north of Richmond, just east of Fredericksburg. That area experiencing some very heavy rainfall, and you can see how splotchy the purples are. That's where we're seeing the highest rainfall right now in localized areas of flooding. So I'll leave it for you there. I'll jump back on if I need to. We're also looking at a new mesoscale precip discussion issued for our area from the Weather Prediction Center. I'm going to hop on there and read that, and I'll have more updates for you on Cable 12 and on the web and social here as we go throughout the rest of the afternoon. Stay weather aware.